Hello there everybody, and welcome back to East. Last video we defeated our first boss, and we're now ready to traverse further into our first dungeon. Before continuing on, however, there's just one point I want to make, and that is this room is our last sort of safe room. When we get into the shrine, there's not going to be any way for us to heal ourselves unless we have a healing potion, which you can purchase from any clinic. Up until this point in the game, if Adal's been injured, what we've been able to do is just stand still, and his health would slowly regenerate. In dungeons, that mechanic is null and void, and you have to go on very, very carefully watching your health. And keeping in mind, of course, that when you get into dungeons, the enemies change, so you have to sort of be very aware of what's going on around you. And I would recommend making a save in this room, so that way if you die, you'll come back to the start of the dungeon and you won't lose a lot of progress before continuing on. What I sort of like to do is I like to go through a couple of rooms, and if I feel myself getting a bit low on health or like I need a break, I'll come back to this room, I'll regain some health, I'll save, and I'll go back down. Completely up to you how you want to take this dungeon, but that's kind of what I'm going to do going forward. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, couple of new enemies in this area. The enemies on the first and second floor shouldn't give you too much trouble. If you are filling up those monster book entries, then you'll need to defeat a whole bunch of them in order to fill up the entry, so just keep that in mind. If you do that, you'll also be able to do quite a bit of grinding, and you'll be very, very powerful in this area, which is a good thing. There's nothing to do on the first floor of the shrine, so what I've gone and done is just headed down south to the second floor. I'm going to go into this first corridor that's in between these two statues and follow the path until I find a chest. This has the prison key in it. This is a key item that we're going to need. There were some prison cells on the first floor that I skipped because we needed that key in order to open them up. I'm gonna go to this second door beside the single statue, head north, and then go down the third corridor, follow it upwards, and then at the end of it we have a treasure box key. This is a very important key, and this serves as sort of a master key for the rest of the game. This will open up any locked chests, not only in this dungeon, but throughout the rest of the game. So if you come across any locked chests that you haven't been able to open, with that you are now able to open them up, which is pretty important for some side quests and whatnot. And then finally, after we get our master key, we can open up this chest with the silver bell inside. The very same silver bell that the mayor of Zepik had asked us to find. We're going to return that to him. That will help clear his mind. It'll bring the safety back to Zepik village, and it will also hopefully clear up the confusion with the thieves and whatnot as well. Now that we have our prison key, I'm back on the first floor, and if we head to the easternmost side of this room, we can see that there are a couple of prison cells that we can open up. Before I do that though, however, I'm going to just head a little bit south. And there's another chest here, and this one has a necklace inside. And this is just some goods that we can sell to Pim later on. So if you go to unlock the first cell on the left-hand side, there's nothing in there, but you can go ahead and use the key if you wish just to unlock it. The second cell on the right, however, has a prisoner inside, so let's talk to her. Who are you? Adal introduced himself and explained his reason for coming to the shrine. My name is Fina. It feels like I've been locked up down here for my entire life. I remember it was a man in a black cape who put me here. He is a terrible man who seems to control the very movements of the monsters. It's dangerous here. You should forget about me. Please, hurry. Get away from here while you can. We have the option to either leave Fina here or take her with us. We're not going to be able to make much progress without her though. So we're just going to go ahead and take her with us now. You're going to help me? You're saying I can leave this place? Adel, thank you so very much. Adel swore to Fina that he would lead her to a safe place. Okay, so now we get Fina in our party, so to speak. You can see that her stats are on the left-hand side of the screen there, just below Adel's stats, and obviously hers absolutely pale in comparison, so we need to keep a very, very close eye on her. Her health is also on the bottom of the screen, and if she dies, it's game over. I would recommend saving just in case Fina does die so you don't lose a bunch of progress that you just did. And before leaving, we're going to also pick up the chest that's in here with Fina. This is the Mask of Eyes. Very important for later on. The man in the black cape put that mask in here with me. Perhaps it could be of some use to you. Alright, Fina, let's go. I will take you back to Zepik Village. So Fina's pretty good about following you, but I would still recommend staying relatively close by to her. What happens if you wander off too far from Fina is she'll start to walk into walls, and if you've defeated enemies and you walk too far ahead, those enemies will respawn, and they can sometimes respawn right in front of Fina, and it can actually get her killed. You only have to escort her a very short distance, so take your time, don't be too greedy or too quick, because that'll just end up getting Fina killed. There are also a couple things we can do with Fina in the very short amount of time that we have her in our party. So I'll show off a couple of those things now. If we come to the very westernmost side of the first floor, we can see that there's sort of this little dead end here, and what we can do is we can try and push Fina into this corner. I'm going to save my game first. I'm going to show both outcomes of this. These are worth achievements. These are little Easter egg things. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but what you can do is you can push Fina into this corner. It's a dead end. Adel, it's a bit tight back here, don't you think? And that is what is known as measuring Fina. So we can be a creeper, we can pin this poor girl in a corner, and by doing that we can get some of her measurements, which includes her height and her bust. So that's just a little bit of an Easter egg thing. And the other thing that we can do is we can do that same thing, but we can use the Mask of Eyes. So we can put the mask on, push Fina into a corner, and we get some secondary dialogue here. It's a dead end. Adel, you're kind of scaring me right now. And then that also gets you another achievement. So it's basically the same thing, but done two different ways. So those are just some freebies for those of you who are into the achievement hunting. Back up on this floor, I'm just going to stop for a quick second and regain a little bit of my health before continuing onwards. Luckily for us, this is a safe area, and we only have a little bit more to go in order to bring Fina back to Zepik Village. There's a couple of weaker monsters in the mountain area that really shouldn't give us too much trouble. There is one more thing that we can do with Fina once we get outside, but it's a little bit more riskier and definitely not as comical as what we just did. Before I go, there's also a chest to the left-hand side of the statue that we can now open with our treasure box key, and this is a shield ring. This is going to be our first accessory of the game, and we'll take a look at that a little bit later. So we're going to warp Fina out of here, And I'm just going to make another very quick save here. I'm going to go into my inventory and I'm going to equip the mirror. Now this can be purchased from Pim at his shop for a fee of about 500 gold, I do believe. And this is going to be necessary in order to attempt this final thing that we can do with Fina. You can do this in the shrine if you want, but I like to do this out here because these enemies are a lot weaker than the ones in the shrine. What the mirror does is it stops time, so what you can do is get an enemy lined up, stop time, and then try and walk Fina into the enemy, and this is really hard to do. It's very tricky. It takes a little bit of skill. But what you want to try and do is freeze time enough so that you can line Fina up with an enemy, get her to run into it, and in order to get another achievement, what Fina has to do is kill that enemy. She's very weak. This takes quite a significant amount of time to do, and the mirror has limited uses. So this is a bit of a trial and error type of thing. And because you only have Fina up until the Zepik village point, you don't have the option of going into the field and picking a much smaller and weaker enemy. So completely up to you if that's something that you want to do. It is possible and I have done it, but again, it just takes a lot of practice and patience. And the thing that's most frustrating about it is that if Fina's in the middle of trying to kill an enemy, when time unfreezes and it runs into her, she'll be killed. So you'll probably have to stop time a couple of different times in order to achieve that. But you can see that Fina got that guy half killed. And killing the enemy doesn't really do anything except for give you an achievement, because she's not going to be a permanent member of our party, and she doesn't level up or anything like that. So, again, just another sort of little Easter egg, extra sort of thing that you can do with Fina if you wish. But I think we're finished with this poor girl. We should probably take her back to the village now and just make sure she's okay. I'm alright, Adel. I'm just tired, that's all. Don't worry about me. Fina lapsed into unconsciousness. Adel felt her forehead and confirmed that she had a fever. Luckily, Jebba's house was very close. Adel gently lifted Fina over his shoulder and promptly carried her to Jebba's. Man, Adel's strong. She's sleeping well. The medicine should help. Add a good night's rest and she should be fine by morning. Still, no matter how you look at it, it's a very strange story. The sacred inner sanctum sealed under the shrine for so long, becoming home to monsters. And a girl imprisoned there, no less. So much of this simply doesn't add up. I agree with you, Jebba. So we're gonna let Fina rest, and Fina will automatically get better anytime that you leave the village and come back. So we can talk to her after she regains consciousness. While we're in Zepik, what we should do is return the silver bell to the mayor as well. Oh my, it's the silver bell. Was it the thieves? Were they the ones you retrieved it from? What's that? The thieves didn't have it. It was beneath the old shrine? I'm confused. Why in the world would it have been there? Well, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is it's been returned. We're safe again. Thank you so much, adventurer. As a token of my appreciation, I give you this ring. Wear it well. And we get the power ring. Thank you. It's a family heirloom with mystical properties. I believe it will prove very useful to you. Now we have two different rings to choose from. We have the shield ring, which reduces all damage received by half, and we have the power ring, which doubles the wearer's strength. I personally find the shield ring to be a little bit more useful, and that's usually what I go with. We also are in a position now where we can either go back to the shrine and continue, or we can do a couple of extra little side things. So I think next time I'm just going to take a bit of a quick detour, very, very quick, mind you. We're going to take care of a couple of things out here in the world before we continue on back into the shrine. I want to thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you next time.